Amazon's Lord of the Rings series takes place in the Second Age of Arda, but what is that age? Are there any familiar faces? And what should every fan know about it before watching the show? The Second Age was defined by some key events that went down in history and became the stuff of legend. Empires rose and fell. A ticked-off god threw a massive temper tantrum, and Sauron gave jewelry makers a bad name. Unsurprisingly, Sauron is gonna be a big frickin' deal in the Amazon series, and he'll be more than just a giant flaming eye. You see, the Second Age was when the Dark Lord rose to power, and he did so in interesting ways. To copy an old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was Mordor. Prior to becoming the most feared villain around, Sauron was a handsome trickster who charmed his way into some important circles.
Do you find me attractive?
For a while, he went by the name Anatar, though some people knew him as the Lord of Gifts because he was the generous type. And he was so good at pretending to be a nice guy that he befriended some powerful elves and kings in Middle-earth. No one knew who he really was, nor did they care, as his knowledge was making them rich and powerful. But it didn't take long until Sauron made some of his new pals return the favor. After seducing a group of elves that were known for their top-notch craftsmanship, he convinced them to create the Great Rings that would eventually lead to the formation of the Ring Wraiths. Plus, this was also during the time in which Sauron created his own magical ring in secret.
One ring to rule them all.
And we all know how that unfolded. Unfortunately for the Dark Lord, the elves eventually figured out what he was up to and refused to bow to him. So the Dark Lord had a wobble and began his violent quest for world domination.
You're late. Our master grows impatient. He wants the Shire Rats now.
However, the books and movies glance over the specifics. Prior to his eventual defeat at the ends of the elf and human army, we see the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring. An army of men known as the Numenorians kept the Dark Lord's forces at bay. Heck, they even proved to be too much for Sauron's forces. He eventually surrendered and handed himself over, but it was all just a ploy to get access to the king of Numenor and manipulate him. And it was all going so well until Numenor was destroyed. More on that later. Anywho, while Sauron was swept up in the wreckage, his spirit survived and he headed back to Middle-earth to wreak more havoc on the humans, elves, and dwarves. And so began the Great War that eventually led to Isildur defeating the Dark Lord. Or should we say, putting him to sleep for a while? Because we all know that Sauron was a tough cookie to crumble. Sauron's rise to infamy is certainly the most attention-grabbing tale of the Second Age. But that all came later. Sauron might not have become the big bad if his master's death hadn't ushered in the New Age of Darkness. With that in mind, let's discuss the events that led to the Dark Lord's journey to the top. The Second Age commences right after the War of Wrath. Basically, this was a bloody battle involving humans, elves, dragons, trolls, and all manner of beasts. More specifically, however, it brought an end to a rascal known as Morgoth. He was the OG Dark Lord of Arda, and Sauron was his protege during the First Age. So if you're wondering where Sauron picked up his bad habits from, look no further. With the evil one down, humans, elves, and dwarves wanted to start fresh, so they set off into the big world of Arda to build new homes and kingdoms. However, some elves were tired of the drama and relocated to the Undying Lands to live in peace. In case you need a refresher, that's the paradise Frodo, Bilbo, and Gandalf sailed off to at the end of Return of the King, right after leaving poor Sam in a pool of his own tears.
You don't mean that. You can't leave.
No, you're crying. Let's move on before the waterworks start again. Where were we? Oh, yeah. New beginnings! The elves who stayed in Arda traveled all over the place, but many of them settled in a region called the Gulf of Lune. This is actually featured in the Peter Jackson movies as it's home to the Grey Havens, which is the port Frodo and the gang took off from right after they broke our hearts. But Lune wasn't the only elven realm to rise to prominence in the Second Age. While it took him almost 2,000 years to get around to it, Elrond established Rivendell during this period. And thank the Lord he did. Rivendell is one of the most important places in Middle-earth history, as it's where Frodo's quest to destroy the One Ring began, all the while making friendships that would last forever.
I will take the ring to Mordor.
Some elves preferred the nomadic lifestyle though. Remember Galadriel and Celeborn? When we met them in the Third Age, they're a big deal. However, the couple spent the majority of the Second Age bouncing around different elven communities. That was until they crossed the Misty Mountains and settled in Lothlorien, becoming rulers in the process. But their Second Age journey is shrouded in mystery, though that won't be the case for much longer. Amazon has already confirmed that Morfydd Clark will play Lady Galadriel, so fans can expect to see what she got up to on her travels throughout the Second Age, and hopefully we'll get to see more of her mystical mirror.
Even the wisest cannot tell, for the mirror shows many things.
The Second Age was also a great time for the Dwarves and the city of Moria. Prior to becoming the haunted wasteland that's home to the Balrog in the Third Age, Moria was a prosperous haven for the tough little furballs. They became rich, befriended the elves, and boasted famous figures in their ranks who commanded respect. It's gonna be awesome seeing a Moria that's alive with activity in the Amazon series, but the little creatures might not be a prominent fixture in the show. While the elves and dwarves play their part in the Second Age, the humans were at the center of most of the action. And oh boy, did they experience some ups and downs. As a reward for winning the War of Wrath and vanquishing the Dark Lord, the Valar, who are basically angels in Lord of the Rings lore, rewarded the humans with an island that rose from the sea, and that island became the home to the kingdom of Numenor. The first people to settle on the island were led by King Elros, the half-elven brother of Elrond. He ruled Numenor for over 400 years and turned it into the strongest kingdom in all of the lands. Unfortunately, all good things come to an end eventually. Following the reigns of 24 other kings, Ar-Pharazôn took to the throne and messed things up for everyone. Under his rule, Numenor became a dark place that embraced the teachings of Morgoth. That's because the king let Sauron become his chief advisor, despite having a history that could be described as sketchy. With Sauron by his side, the king decided to attack the Undying Lands, which upset the god Eru Ilúvatar. You should never get on the bad side of an all-powerful god. And Ar-Pharazôn found that out the hard way. Eru wasn't happy with the king for trying to destroy his homies, so he laid waste to the once prominent kingdom. The rest is history. Not every human was corrupted by the ways of darkness, though. Wanting nothing to do with the evil that befell their kingdom, some folks traveled to Middle-earth and founded the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor. But their impact extended much further than those places. These humans also helped build some of the places we visit in the books and movies, including Saruman's Tower, the city of Minas Tirith, and Weathertop, which was where Frodo got stabbed by the Black Rider. Some of those places are associated with bad things happening, but the humans had their heart in the right place, and they avoided the wrath of a god. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our breakdown of everything we know about the show thus far. Thanks for watching!